man, I love it.
Not to be confused with flagpole sitar, which is a different altogether.
What's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WP Water Cooler, and it is episode number 314. Whoa. This particular episode is brought to you by ServerPress, makers of desktop server. I want to go around the room real quick and get everyone introduced. Say, Reed, yeah, you're further back in the alphabet. Yeah, you can start us off a little bit.
Oh, thanks. I feel real special. I didn't realize it was 11 already. All I can think is paranoia.
Everybody's coming to get me.
I know my name though. My name is Say Reed. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, feast WordPress, breathe WordPress, dream WordPress lately, which is starting to creep me out. And at Say Reed Media on all the things. Hey, what's up? Hi.
I want to publish zines and Rage Against Machines.
I do.
Oh man, Jonathan, tell us about yourself.
Jonathan Wold. I do what Say does. I just don't look as good. And I live in North Idaho, and you can find me on Twitter, Jonathan.
Mr. Cosper, how about you?
Hey everybody, I'm Jason Cosper. I want to pierce my tongue. It doesn't hurt, but it feels fine. So.
Yeah. What's your favorite line?
Like turn off time, kill my mind.
That's what Steve wants to do.
Good to have you on as always, Cosper. How about you, Steve?
I am Steve Zangan. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
Allegedly.
Awesome. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. I do this show as well as WP Blab, so make sure you go take a look at WP Blab over at WPwatercooler.com/WP Blab, where you can find out all fun stuff about what we do over there. Last episode was 2 weeks ago. It's been a little bit, and it's probably gonna be a little bit more because I got a lot of stuff going on Thursdays, and Thursdays is hard. Fridays isn't too bad. So
Thursdays is a big day.
It is. It's
you like build up all the stuff from over the week.
This is the
big show. So today I wanted to talk, we've kind of been alluding to this topic over the last couple episodes, but this idea of using someone else's code on your site and using somebody else's code like on a site that you're delivering to someone else. You know, it's like, here client, here's some code that I did not write and I'm going to support this. And hopefully it doesn't blow up on me. And, no. So I wanted to discuss this a little bit. I did have a bit of a side rant regarding this in regards to weird stuff that happens in the dashboard with plugins as marketing gets involved and how we should start talking about, our pro version of our plugin and how we should start throwing a whole bunch of fun things into the dashboard. I think we'll definitely get into that at some point. It might not be this particular episode, but I wanted you to know that we kind of want to dig through a little bit about how do you kind of share this with your clients that you didn't write all the code that made up this site, but you're definitely charging them for it.
First, you have to tell your clients, so I didn't invent the internet. I need you to know this. I'm not responsible for the entire thing.
Steve, you were telling me that you have this type of conversation with your clients that no, I didn't write WooCommerce. Like WooCommerce was not my thing, but you're going to be using WooCommerce, and we wrote like a couple thousand lines of code that kind of go with WooCommerce, but we didn't write WooCommerce to start with.
Well, I start with the benefit, right? So the benefit of using existing code and other people's code is something like WooCommerce it's a mature platform. It's been out there for a long time. There's a lot of good developers behind it, right? And it's supported and it's always going through updates, right? So what we get by using something like a WooCommerce, for instance, is a lot of the platform already built. A lot of the features that my clients might be looking for are already done. And then we're going to kind of customize it from there. So there's a benefit to using existing code.
Makes sense. I mean, just like you're not Liquid Web for the hosting of the thing, just like with Cosper, it's like you're not the web host, but you found a good partner to work with and you've put their website on that web host.
And one way to say that is a website has many moving parts. right? There's a lot of things
Well,
that make up a website.
Deep. Let's what is a website, Steve?
It wasn't meant to be existential.
You should crack open that Wikipedia, Steve. We haven't heard what a website is.
What a website is today.
According to Wikipedia, a website is no. I'm not going to.
Actually, I do know this because I actually looked it up this week because I did a beginner talk, and I just wanted to see what the world said. It's a digital collection of files.
That's what a website is? A digital collection of files?
Yeah.
And a database if you don't remember to.
That's not the Wikipedia. Let's just break it down. Anyway.
But to answer your question about hosting, Jason, and I've said this, on past water coolers, I let all my clients know right up front, I'm not a host, right? I'm not a host. And this is specifically what the host is responsible for, right? And sort of where we leave off and they pick up. So we draw that distinction.
That is so important so that you are not called in the middle of the night with an expectation that you are going to get the website up at 2 a.m.
Depends on the size of the client.
I'm still called in the middle of the night. We're still responsible for it, but it's a lot of times.
And your host isn't doing a very good job if you're being called in the middle of the night.
It doesn't happen often.
I like the example of focusing on the benefits. Like if I was in IT and built a custom app for some big enterprise client and went in and we deployed it on their phones, they're not going to expect of me that I built the operating system that's like powering the base. In a similar way, it's like listen, nor would you want, if we built an OS for these phones, that's a bad idea. Like there's a huge, excellent body of work, and we built an app that runs on top of this. So in a similar way with WordPress, if you think of it as an operating system, like, hey, there's this great foundation. There's like additional like ecosystem plugins on top, like WooCommerce, that add a whole new suite of functionality. And that, I built a custom WooCommerce extension for you that does these special things, but it's definitely to their benefit.
Yeah. And that's a great distinction, a great
Are you
way to
really
describe
building
it.
custom WooCommerce extensions?
Not anymore, but
okay.
I am.
To check.
I am. I describe WordPress as a platform. Yeah. It's a platform. Yeah. And there's many.
So's your face. Sorry, I'm just not serious today.
It's okay. That's all right. You got a head cold.
I guess there is some things that could happen with that code. So if you're not the one that originally wrote the code, but the company that wrote the code that maybe the whole site is dependent on makes a full left turn and goes like, actually, we're turning this into a social media platform, and we're not actually going to have this be a shopping cart plugin or a whatever. What do you do then? Like, how do you explain that to the customer? Like, hey, by the way, that thing that we put like 90% of your website on now we need to find another solution for it.
In general, that's a fairly low risk in WordPress. A lot of it's because of this perhaps overemphasis on backwards compatibility, right? Like that's pretty, but the other part is, as someone building these things, that's part of our responsibility to figure out what are the safe bets. Like what do you use?
Honestly, I think that is one of the most valuable things about having long-term kind of like industry knowledge about WordPress. And even if you're not paying someone to build the code, you're paying for the fact that they know the difference between this plugin and the history of this, hosting company and where it's going. Because this is what I was saying to some folks I was teaching a workshop to this week. You don't want to just build your website for today, right? Like you want to build your website for next year because you don't want to have to be rebuilding it. So if you're just building it with whatever works today without any eye to where are all these tools that I'm using going to be in a year, then you could just, use whatever newfangled thing is out there. But in a year, you're not going to have those pieces together because they're all just a bunch of like bright burnout stars.
One of the big opportunities that I see in WordPress as time goes on is to remove some of the dependence on specialized knowledge, because today this is a bit of a problem, right? Like you have your favorite forms plugin, I have my favorite forms plugin, and there's 10 others that exist now that neither of us have tried.
Wait, your favorite forms plugin isn't Gravity Forms?
So
it totally is. See, we all have the same forms. Okay, just let it clarify. Okay, cool.
So. And that's specialized knowledge, right? Like, and I'm a creature of habit. I've had a Gravity Forms subscription now for almost a decade, and it's like, it still does the job. I look at others occasionally, but ultimately there's a lot of opportunity for us to, as an ecosystem, to have Like, all right, how would someone know who doesn't know who to talk to?
So Jonathan's in a committed relationship with Gravity Forms, but he likes to look around every now and then.
He likes to keep his options open.
Yeah, you have
What's up, Ninja Forms? How's it going, girl?
just put your toe in the water.
You're looking good today. Ninja Forms coming up with the freemium. Look at Sorry.
Oh,
But ultimately, it's easy for us to have
an open relationship with Gravity Forms.
we all go to Meetup, right? And at Meetup, that's the most recurring questions. Well, what do I do for this? What do I do for that? It's great to be able to like dish out knowledge, but ultimately the opportunity is, what about for those who don't go to the meetups? And ultimately, what am I missing out on because I've been doing the same thing for years?
And I think to your point, it is important. I'm going to crack up Say here, but it is important to have an open mind when you get into these things.
Yeah.
Right. It's important. It's important to have an open mind, because a lot of times and we talked last week about inheriting code, right? But I find that clients will come to me after they've had a conversation with another developer that is insisting on a particular technology, right?
Right.
They say, absolutely, you have to use this technology. Everything else sucks, right? And that's not exactly true. That's typically a developer speaking from their own set of experience, right? And it's
I hate it when developers do that. They're like, oh, this is the one thing I know,
Yes.
Therefore this is the only one that's
right.
really good.
That's why they're recommending it, because it's the only one they know how to support.
Right.
Which isn't necessarily the best for the client, and often isn't.
That's some bullshit. Sorry.
It is. It totally.
is.
This code has my filter just completely off. It's just got this cold.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Say is now RoboCop.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And
didn't mean to
What
interrupt
happens?
you.
So what happens when things go wrong then? That's the next piece here. I mean, things went right because you made a decision and you installed it on their site and everything went well. And maybe 6 months down the road, stuff starts breaking. What do you do then? You didn't write the code; somebody else did.
move to the phone plugin.
Yeah. For me, Jason, customer service is the key differentiator there, right? So even if something goes wrong, right, and it's something that we didn't write, and it's other code or it's a hosting issue or something, we always take responsibility, right? Even if it's something that we had no hand in doing and it went wrong, we still take responsibility, because that's what our clients came to us for. Right? We still find out what the issue is and go fix it.
I mean,
Well, go ahead. No, you say, Jason. You
all
talk.
right. So when this is your first couple of clients' websites that you built, and this always happens to everybody, the first couple clients' websites, and you install a Facebook button, like share button, Twitter share button, all those like share buttons, right? And you're like, this is the fanciest one, it's the coolest looking one, I'm gonna put this on their site, and you put this on their site, and then the plugin never gets updated. And it's so weird, but like,
why are share buttons so effing complicated?
The API changed. What happened?
Why is it the worst
That's your
part of
first time.
Yeah. And I think that's a matter of educating your client, right? Either before the fact or after the fact. You can do it at either point, but at that point, you've got to take a step back and just educate them as to how the internet works, right? And how technologies change, right? Technologies change and they grow over time. And this is a plugin for a technology that changed, but the plugin developer didn't update it, and that's why these things are broken. I can fix it, but this is why these things were outside of my control. Right?
Yes. I was going to say that earlier you were talking about, did you just refer the same thing over and over again? I like to take each new client as basically a fresh opportunity to examine the field, because even though Gravity Forms is great and has all these things for some clients, it's not necessarily the right fit for every project. So that's the cool thing about all of these different options, and not just saying, oh, I have this same hammer, so I'm always going to hit this nail the same exact way. Maybe you need to do something else. Maybe a nail will work, but maybe a screw would be better. I knew I was going to get myself into trouble with that. I saw it coming while I was saying it.
A screw is always better.
A screw is always better than a nail. No.
Casper looks like he's got something on his mind.
I was going to say Now that Say's phrasing about a screw has floated out into the ether, a quick sidebar. How many of you said share buttons? How many of you have actually clicked on a share button on a page in the past 6 months?
Nope.
No.
Me? No,
It's time
I
for-
never
no.
do.
Okay.
Other people do, and I have proof of it.
But hold on. We all understand what a URL is. And we all also,
Of
if we wanted
course.
to share an article, would know how to copy said URL. And that is not the same thing for the standard user. And this is the problem that we as developers have when we're in this total framework of our own world. We don't realize, of course, you just copy the link from the browser. That's people do not even understand that that is a thing that is there. They use it as a search toolbox. So
Casper, what do you ask?
yeah, sorry.
Oh no, I just hate share buttons. I'm being a because it's really I feel like the world would be better with less share buttons. There was that plugin just the other day that social warfare. Sorry to single it out. That
Single
had,
it.
Oh man.
Do something
Yeah,
more malware.
had-
Share buttons are the most malware laden things.
Yeah, and they track you no matter where you go. So Facebook, no matter what page a share button is on, they are fudging useless.
Whoa.
Well, I mean,
wow, he used the F word.
Yeah, the
that's
fudge.
really intense.
Yeah, it's no, but I'm sorry, but back on topic.
I mean, no, that's on topic, right? Because
yeah.
which share button thing do you use? And there are new share button plugins that come out every single week.
I know.
Absolutely.
Wait, I got an answer. I know which share button you use. None of them.
That's my answer. Yeah.
Literally
Do you
none
really
of
not
them.
put share buttons?
So
See, so then you get into the conversation of, are you meeting the expectations of the user who are like, oh, where's the share button? How do I share this? Sharing is one of the most valuable things.
I hear
the
it's
most
caring
valuable
too.
forms of marketing.
I hear
What?
sharing is caring.
How do you
as well.
handle this with clients? Like, does it come up? Like, do you find that it comes up with clients now, like they ask for it, or like how have you handled it from customer
He's
service?
doing fancy pants sites. They don't need no share button.
No, we have share buttons on some of our sites. We talk about the benefit, right? We talk about, and I ask a very similar question to what Casper asks. Is I say, do you use share buttons, right? How do you use share buttons? What are your expectations around a share button, right? And sometimes the idea of sharing is not really what they have in mind, right? It's not exactly what they want to do, right? Same with liking, right? There used to be the like button all over the place, right? The like button was, or the thumbs up, it was everywhere. Where do you see that?
No, it
anymore?
wasn't. It was never everywhere.
It was.
Everywhere.
That was some terrible software from day.
We all had
effing
T-shirts
one.
with a like button on it that didn't do anything. Couldn't do anything when you did this, you know?
But okay, so this is another thing. So the first question is, with each client, right? You have the opportunity to look at all of kind of do a little. I do a survey basically of the tools for each new client, because it's an opportunity for me to take in the field. It's an opportunity to really dive into what the specific needs of the client are of the project for those specific nuances. But what about when you're in a project that's already launched, whether you built it or someone else built it, and it's, a new product has come out, or the product that you are using is not as great anymore, not as well supported? What about that decision when it's basically an optional change, right? You don't necessarily have to change from using this plugin, but it would be better for this, and this reason. Do any of you ever basically like change plugins midstream?
All the time.
Yeah, all the time, but really, when it comes to, say, like you're changing from one e-commerce plugin to another, discussions need to be had about.
That's a little elaborate. You're like, just kidding, your entire system's different. Don't worry about it.
That's probably not a better, yeah.
I think you have to analyze what that migration is going to look like, and in anything you switch.
Steve, you got so serious just now. You were
Did
like,
I?
wait, are you talking about changing your
like,
system?
when I think about like WooCommerce, like that's like an ecosystem plugin that has so many different parts connected to it. That's a lot harder to change out than the feature plugin or direct integration, right? So that's part of it matters. Like that's where those decisions, like forums are kind of close because they start to bring a lot more functionality with them and integrations. So
As you build them out.
yeah, like I've built I'm not sure I like to publicly describe. I built some pretty fancy stuff, like with form plugins that didn't think that was possible.
We've had this issue with Instagram, for instance, where Instagram goes and change an API, the way their API is going to be set up, and they're like, you can only show images from your own Instagram feed, not anyone else's. And I'm like, oh, great. So this entire part of this website is now useless. Like we used to have a thing over at the church where it's like, I want to show all of the images that were taken at the church. Like it would actually, even who tagged the church in it, show all those images. Well, no, it was for internal use. So the intranet would show the stuff. And so people were like, hey, this thing broke. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And it has a message on there saying like the API's changed and talk to your administrator. And I'm like,
that's you.
Are you kidding me? And then come to find out, yeah, it's like, sorry, I can't do this anymore because they took away the functionality.
Or you could do set up individual WordPress accounts for each user and then iframe it all together.
Oh God.
Right?
I'm using an iframe on a site right now and it makes me want to punch it.
So we've talked a little, this has kind of been focused on plugins.
Not my choice, by the way.
Yeah, this has kind of been focused on plugins up to this point, but really the original question was someone else's code, right? What if you're working on a site that has multiple developers working on it, right? That multiple teams
with no version.
Well, version control. So when we do that, we require version control, right? If you're working with multiple teams and you're working over FTP, you're just going to keep overriding each other's code, right? So definitely have version control in place.
Use the email to let someone know you're about to work on the site, and then they stop.
That was real. That was a real thing.
Yeah.
That was actual ways. It's like back when I was a kid, we had to send an email to tell each other to stop doing the update.
Dreamweaver lock files. How about that out there?
Still happens.
Prior to version control, I've heard stories about people that would be sitting next to each other at different desks, and they'd have like a brick or a piece of wood or a plaque or something, and they pass it to each other to basically designate, I'm working on this code right now.
I'm the code brick.
Yes.
I'm the code brick right now.
I'm not kidding. Yeah,
and then they bring in another brick and all hell breaks loose.
But
who brought the dummy brick? That would be Steve.
Cosmer.
Steve brought the dummy brick.
I knew a few developers who would wear a sombrero, and it was the coding sombrero, basically. And so effectively, I'm working on this like nobody else.
Cultural appropriation together.
I'm on the sombrero branch. Don't mess with that one.
Yeah, you could like have your thing be named according to your stuff. That'd be awesome.
So yes, a Git repository is mandatory, right? You should not be working with a team without a Git repository, but at some point that code's going to be merged into one, right? It's going to get to a server. It's going to get merged into the branch at some point, right? And not all coders are created equally, right? And so we do have to end up supporting other developers' code, right? That's not vetted through the plugin world.
Yeah. Let Git be your sombrero.
Can we tweet that, Jason? I think we need to tweet that today. That is.
I will make that happen.
I've become much more empathetic and patient with other people's code as time has gone on. Because I mean, we've
patient or impatient.
Patient, like
you become more patient. Okay. Yeah,
because and as a rule, like I find that I get better and better at documenting as time goes on because of the pain I've experienced. And like, all right, so they wrote this like super long function that does all these crazy things, and it's like, oh man, these massive queries.
And so, and there is a system that you can put in place to do what you're talking about, Jonathan. That's code reviews, right? So one of the ways that you help coders get better or you fix code is by having a code review protocol, so that before it gets merged into a site, you actually it goes through some some other levels, right? Jason Cohen was a big proponent of code reviews. Jason Cohen from WP Engine.
A smart bear.
Mm-hmm. Smart Bear was actually I think that's what their company was focused on, was code reviews.
No, but isn't that handle? Sorry.
Yeah, that was his company before WP Engine. That was their thing. It was code reviews.
I just want to point out, this is why you have to be careful with your Twitter handles, okay? Just because that is what people are going to call you forever.
Be careful out there, people.
Be careful with your bears.
But I think Jonathan, I think to your point, I think that's important is patience. Patience is a real skill when it comes to integrating other people's code, right? Because it's real easy to look at somebody's code and go and say, what were you thinking? This sucks. You're an idiot, right?
Steve likes to make friends.
I don't.
That's a warning sign for me, by the way. A little unsolicited pro tip for clients. If the client badmouthed their previous developer, they're going to probably do it to you too.
Also, if the client badmouthed their previous developer, the likelihood is the client was the problem.
Yeah, look at the constant in the situation.
Pro tip, that also works in relationships. Okay. Yeah.
I think the social media plugin.
I think we should all let Git be our sombrero here.
I missed that joke because there was crazy dog barking happening, but I'm sure it was hilarious.
It was good. Oh man. All right. So things went bad, things went good. What else is there that we should talk about regarding this part? We got a couple more minutes left.
What about documentation? What do y'all do about that?
Yes.
Wow.
So
in code documentation.
It's important. I think for us as an ecosystem, I would love to see like WordPress. One of the beauties of WordPress and a value proposition to someone choosing to build in it is that there are lots of developers who could work on your stuff, right? So maybe you get tired of the client, you move on, you get a job. It's pretty important that we are designing and building things as if it's someone else is going to take care of it at some future point. I mean, I've had the experience of going back and looking at my own code, and before I had made documentation a consistent practice, like what was I thinking? I don't know. But I've learned enough. Like most people, like it's very easy to say, oh, the code's bad, this, that. But there's usually, there was some thinking that went into it. Someone figured something out. So there's a reason they did it a certain way. And it's helpful when that reason's documented. So yay for documentation.
How deep does that documentation go? So for example, do you just say this function is meant to do this? Do you cite like where that is? Like, do you ever like put, any sort of reference to what you're using, or do you just explain what the thing is doing?
So for me, I use comments, like not quite line by line, but like at relevant points to just explain the logic. What am I trying to accomplish? Like, this is what I'm trying to do. And then I just sort of like my own personal style. It's not super formal. It's just a narrative style of like, in English, here's what I'm trying to accomplish with this bit of code, and here's what it's doing, and here's why I'm doing this.
See, I have inherited code, and I will go through, and if I decide, yeah, okay, I'm still going to use this, especially custom code, I'll go through and start documenting. Here's what I see them doing it, or what I see them doing, and I tend to stick with the WordPress-Coding-Standards, which have, which also push like PHP code documentation standards, and those checks, as long as they're enabled in something like VS Code or Atom or any of the IDEs, it does pretty good about holding your hand about, hey, you didn't put documentation in place for this. Like, how about you do that? Like, how about you go ahead and document this function so someone can figure that out later? Because something to bring Jason Cohen back up, he mentions
for whatever reason.
He says that at some point it's going to be somebody's last day at working at WP Engine. He also
just in general, I was very dire at the end of that.
Again, existential. Go on, Cusper. Go on.
At the end of it, it's at some point it's going to be someone's last day. When it's your last day working on a piece of code, if that gets handed off to somebody else, you have to give them as much of a leg up as possible into understanding what's going on. Yeah, or you can do like you can be like saying, "No,
it's my code. You figure it out if you're so smart."
I just want to give a quick +1 for best practices, right? So when I'm reviewing other people's code or I'm inheriting code, it's one of the first things I look at is are you following WordPress best practices, right? And that's, and if it's not, it's a lot of things that we try to put in place right away, because that's what's going to future-proof your code ultimately.
But do you mean just like general best practices, or is there like a list somewhere that I have not seen? Like, is there?
Well, there's PHP styled comments that you would use that are going to be interpreted by something else later if you wanted to do something like that.
I'll drop a link to the coding standards in our chat, and I'm sure Jason will get it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm like, should I have known that? There's some, are we setting the best practices?
When it comes to best practices, I had visions, I was in them. I was looking into the mirror. On that note.
You could see a little bit clearer. Oh, the agony, the irony, killing me.
I want to say thank you very much for all you folks for coming out and hanging out with us to watch this show. Make sure you go over to our sponsors, ServerPress over at Desktop Servers, ServerPress.com. Feel free to go take a look at their site and all the fun stuff that they're doing there. They help out lots of folks being able to do local web development. And if you're doing local web development, you should definitely use it. And if you're not, this would probably be the best one to start out with using because it's free.
They also have
download it and play with it.
They have WPwatercooler, which is a special. There's not too many things like it. It's pretty awesome.
Yep.
It will make your life better.
All right, folks. Thank you very much for hanging out.
For nerves, and then they had to commit me.
Told
Told them all was crazy.